Welcome to Oops, Outrageous, Overwhelming Possibilities to Spread Contagious Joy. And I'll tell you what, we have some joy with us today because I have Doug with us, and I'm going to pass it over to him and I have the Guatemala team just coming back from an incredible journey, and I'm going to pass it over to Doug and let him share a little bit and introduce the team.
Thank you, Sharon. Well, first of all, it's a super pleasure and a privilege to be able to introduce this group of people. I have been traveling with this team for a number of years, and this is by far and away the most committed, dedicated team that I've ever had the joy of working with, of course, to the glory of God the Father. So we give praise and glory, first of all, to Jesus for this trip, for those that we ministered to, for those that ministered to us in return. And I'd like to just take a second to introduce these super individuals that I can't say enough good about. First, on my immediate right is Carly Buck, and then her sister Lindsay Buck, Rachel Gordon, and Tina Moriali. In the back is Henry Edwards, and in the center is Tom Gould, and to their left is Jerry Tibbetts, all of which have a role to play individually as well as collectively as part of the team. And I'll let them share a little bit more about their experiences, particularly we'll start with the new girls. We'll start with the Buck girls.
Well, there was one village that we went to that we didn't go to last year, and that village had like a lot of witchcraft, and so that was a new experience. What Lindsay and I did, we worked with the kids the whole time, and we just took my little ukulele and we just like went out to the houses, because when we first got there, there weren't any kids that were at the clinic that we set up, so we just went around to the houses and we're singing songs with them, and they were all coming out, and they came with us back to the clinic, so that was fun. And we gave them candy and stuff, so that was fun, loving on them.
Yeah, and this this was our second year going, so that was really cool. Like when we went back, we saw some familiar faces, like with the pastors and the kids, and so that was really cool to see them again, and they're all still there. So to be able to witness to them and do the children's ministry was really cool. So.
Okay. It was just an amazing trip. We did have an amazing team, just like Doug said. We all came together. We worked together as a team, and I worked with Doc and Sue, the doctor and his wife, and then we had Noe was interpreting for Doc, and I was doing pharmacy, and then we had Rita that was interpreting for Sue, and we had Candace, who's unfortunately at work, not with us, but we just worked as great teams, and just to see the teamwork working together, and the people were so full of love, and they just really blessed us. It was just amazing.
This was my first trip to Guatemala. I've been on several other mission trips before, but I hadn't gone for several years, and that's really something I love and in my heart. So this was very special to go back, and I had high expectations, and of course they were even just blown out of the park. It just was an amazing trip, and my heart was really touched by the people, and to see all the young girls who are mothers, teenage girls that have these babies, and to get to minister to them, to love on them, and to see in the clinic these women being able to get help for their children, help for their family. We couldn't do a lot, but to see what we could do and to just be able to love on them and give them what we could, really meant a lot to me. The prayer for me, getting to pray with people, was actually the most exciting part. Just loving on them, giving them clothes, and then getting to pray with them at the end, and to hear about the people that, there was a woman that had a baby that she thought her baby had heart issues or had medical issues and heart issues, and had been told that by the doctor. And then when they asked what doctor had told these people this, because most of them haven't even been to doctors, it was the witch doctor that had told them this. And to see the doc got to tell her that her baby was fine and that there was no heart problems at all with her baby, and to see that joy and that excitement just really touched me, and just a lot of really special moments.
So your heart was really touched by the opportunity to go the very, very first time, right? Both you and Tina. What Tina? You didn't get a chance. Rachel shared a little bit about her meeting with some people. This young mother with the baby and the witch doctor. But what about you, Tina? What touched your heart? What was the special for you?
It was really neat, just seeing like the people dressed in their best. I mean, they walked for miles and miles. I mean, it was clear up in the mountains, up in the villages, and they walked so far. And they didn't have vehicles, and hardly any of them had even donkeys to ride. And the animals that they did have were very malnourished and just skinny. And just the love and just the faith that these people had. They had absolutely nothing, but they had everything. They had each other. They had their faith in the Lord, and they just, there was the men and women would come, and the men would be working out in the fields, and they'd be just so much arthritis and pain at such a young age. And the women, their necks and the headaches and just so much pain from carrying the baskets full of food on their head or buckets full of water, But they smiled, and they were so joyful, and just their joy. It just made you come home, when you get home and you think, oh, why do I complain about a hangnail? So it's just makes you really appreciate what you have, and, you just want to serve people more. You want to serve more.
Was it kind of culture shock for you guys that were new? I mean, for me, when I went over there, I saw people living with the pigs, and that just blew me away. In the same house, in the same shack with the pigs. Well, I'm going to pass it over to Doug, and he's going to get to a couple guys, and we're passing this around because we had some sound problems today, but we decided we're going to stay here, and so we wanted you to hear what we had to say about this trip. Here you go, Doug.
Let me just preface, first of all, the remarks that these gentlemen are going to make by telling you, the viewing audience, that short-term missions is represented, or was represented to me, as something that would change my life forever. And clearly, I can honestly tell anybody that would ask me that I've never been the same. And it's and I want to echo what Tina said as well, because when you get back, looking at the purpose for you being there to begin with was to minister to the people. But there's clearly a question in your mind when you get back as to who ministered to who. And so we do come back blessed and tremendously grown in the Spirit. But the other thing that it does for the whole team, and I think I speak for each person without exception, that you really do get a new grounding, a new focus on what's truly important and what's not important. And compared to doing something for the kingdom of Christ, all else really does pale in comparison. So just please understand that, we were working with people that have never seen a doctor. In a couple of villages, they'd never even seen Caucasians other than one other isolated time. So very primitive conditions, but again, echoing Tina's remarks, the thing that blesses us as a team every year is we see extreme abject poverty, but we see people that have smiles that are rich and they're genuine because of the joy of the Lord in their soul. And so we're taught a lot when we go down. We prepare a lot, but we come back richer for it. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Henry Edwards, who has been going with this team for a lot of years now, and I'm sure he's got something that he'd like to share.
This truly was a trip for the ages. It was my 9th trip, and I have to say it was a blessing. It ranks right at the top of all of my trips, mainly because I'm on that team. I'm on this team because of a miracle that occurred prior to accepting a position on the team. Some of the highlights of my trip was that we had a schedule we were supposed to follow, and seemed like every day God would change that schedule and we'd do something different. We had to follow the leading of the Lord, but at the one medical clinic, there was a man came through and he did the medical clinic, and we were outfitting him with some clothes, and I kept looking at his shirt. We were getting ready to pray with him, and there was something in his shirt pocket, and finally I asked him, and he pulled out a little Gideon Bible that was like 10 years old. Well, we had 200 Gideon Bibles that we passed out on our trip, but here was a man, and he had little tabs in his Bible where he was reading this Gideon Bible. So, you know, the efforts that we put forward in our missions trip seem to always pay off. There was another young man named Jose that I met, and he was kind of like a caretaker of the church, young guy, and when they built the church, he was there laying blocks. Well, before he was born, his mother decided that she was going to do an abortion, and the abortion failed, and so he was born with a crippled arm and a crippled leg. And here he was the hardest worker in that church. He and I hit it off pretty well, and I just thank God that I had the opportunity to meet this young man and that he survived this botched abortion. And the final thing was the opportunity we had to go to the Teen Challenge Center in Guatemala City. That was a blessing. It was only because God arranged it. And we got to do a tour of the Teen Challenge Center and hear some testimonies from some of the drug addicts and gang members that were staying there. But it seemed like every day God would have something for us to do and a different place to go, so our schedule kind of just flew out the window. So I want to thank each and every team member for the part that they played in our very successful trip.
So this was my fourth time to go to Guatemala, and by far the best. And I will tell you, probably the reason is God had called each one of us. There were 12 total. We only have 8 here today. Everyone is called and performed what God called them to do perfectly. And so I had mentioned we were kind of like an orchestra, and we all had our parts, and we all came together, and it was a wonderful thing. And so some of us work at the Operation Love Center, which is a ministry of Central Assembly. So we brought a lot of clothes, a lot of sundries, a lot of toothpastes, toothbrushes, and so we had a lot of, probably 600 pounds of stuff that we had. So as the doctor and nurse saw the patients, they would come over to the clothes area, and some of us then would hand out clothes and sandals. And then one of my jobs, as Rachel was and Doug, was to pray with people. And we prayed for hundreds of people. Now, not everybody understood what we prayed for, but we literally prayed in the Spirit, and they would begin to cry. And it was the most moving thing. To pray for that many people is a real blessing. And so, anyway, that's probably what I'd like to share. Jerry worked with the kids. So.
Hi. I have been to Guatemala so many times, I think they ought to call me a Guatemalteco. But when we do these medical missions, I prepare totally different than anybody else, because the medical part of it is nothing that I'm even remotely associated with. So when I am preparing to go, I will fill 2 full suitcases full of different things that the kids would love, some Bible stories, some teaching, and games. And we always want to show God. The main thing is we want to let them know that each one of those kids are important to God, that He has a plan for each one of those kids, and that He cares about them. And I tell them that God knew them before they were in their mother's tummy. Some of those kids have been treated very, very badly, and we want to let them know that God has a better plan for their life. And so through the different things that we do, we want to show that God cares and loves them. I want to tell you a little bit about one particular instance that happened. We were in the mountains. You couldn't believe how steep these mountains were. They were so steep, they would plant corn in an area where if I would think if you dropped an ear of corn, it would land at the bottom of the mountain. That's how steep. That's how steep it looked to me. But we were in an area that remote. In this one particular village that we were in, usually when we work with the kids, we are just giving a place out of anywhere. There's usually nothing to no tables and nothing to put our stuff. We just have to make do. But it always works out. God is there. He cares about each one of us. I want to tell you about this one young girl that was helping me at this one village. I usually start out with coloring, so I can get to kind of know the kids, and I'll have them color a sheet, and then I'll have them write their name on it. Well, I was so taken aback. This one village we went to, they did not even know what a crayon was. They had no clue where the United States was. They are so remote and removed from it. I mean, it really, really took me back. And I would see these kids. Some of these kids had no shoes, wandering around with no shoes at all. I saw this one child had these little flip-flops on. They were so worn out. There was only 2 little pieces on the heel left, and they were still wearing them. That affected me very deeply. Right then, I wished I had suitcases of flip-flops that I could give to these kids. But, God cares about these kids, and I had only like 2 or 3 little pair of shoes. I was only able to give off 1 pair of shoes. This one little gal just kept helping me so much, and after our service that evening, she was one of the little girls that accepted Christ as her Savior. And I won't forget her name because her name is Sylvia. I have a sister by that name for one thing. But after we were done, we couldn't even park close to where we were ministering there. We had to pack our stuff up there. Well, she lugged that whole suitcase by herself all the way in the hill to our car. So that impacted me a lot to show how those people, even though they have nothing, absolutely nothing, but they give, and they give. And as long as I'm alive and able, this is what my heart is for.
This has been wonderful, and I would just love to. The girls are going to share a little song, and would you share a little bit about that song, Rachel?
When we were getting ready to go to Guatemala, Doug asked me to get some dramas prepared, and so I felt it on my heart to do a worship dance. I really felt like that's what God wanted me to do there, so I asked Doug, and he kindly said yes, although on his face I wasn't sure if he thought it was a good idea. But anyways, we did it, and it ended up being so powerful just because of God, which I knew was what was going to happen, that His Spirit would just come in us doing the dance. And we ended up doing it every single day and didn't even do our other dramas that we practiced because it was just, we knew it was just supposed to be. And so we did it, and we really felt God's Spirit. One day we were doing it in the church, and right when this second verse starts, I start pouring these tears down my face as I'm doing the thing, and I felt embarrassed. I'm like, oh goodness, I'm crying, so I'm wiping my tears while I'm trying to do the dance. And then I turned to Carly when we have the part of the song where we turn to each other, and I realized Carly's crying too. So then I felt a little better, but then by the end of it, I realized that all 4 of us girls were crying because the Spirit just was so strong, and it was just an emotional time. And then I found out most of the team was crying too, and sitting there too. But it was just neat, and they're from past religious beliefs. They believe that dance is wrong and it's a negative thing, and so kind of this was a way to open up that you can use dance, you can use your body or all types of things that aren't traditionally used to lift up God and to praise Him. And so I think that was a neat way to express that.
Well, I'd like you girls to go ahead and do that. And Doug, we're going to move the chair out of the way so we have room. And while they're doing that, I want to invite you to come and visit us at Central Assembly. You'll see all these people here. They would love to put their arms around you and just love on you. And we're just believing God to touch your heart as you come and visit us. And we're just believing for God to do a work. Are we ready with the music back there, people? And we'll get this going, get this music going. And we also want to let you know that there's a possibility that this will be one of the last shows of Oops, and also the station, because it's in dire financial need. And so if you enjoy this, would you pray that this station could keep on going? There's a lot of churches involved and a lot of people that are able to share their testimonies because of this station. So we're just believing that this station will be, that God will do a miracle, that this station can keep on going. So thank you for that. And if this is our last time, we want to say goodbye, but hopefully we'll see you again. And God bless you. And girls, go ahead and take that away. Are we ready? They're not quite ready, so I'll share a little bit more. We want to invite you to come in January. I'm starting a Bible study that is called Fresh Fire from the Father's Heart. And you don't want to miss it because it's eternal truths of a God that cares about you as individuals. And I want to invite you. It'll be on Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock. And we're going to be signing up. And possibly, if there's enough interest, there will also be on a Monday night. So I want to let you guys know about that. Are we just about ready? We'll stretch a little bit more. Okay, we're trying to get this show on the road. We've been working with a lot of people that are helping make this happen. And I want to thank all you guys for taking your time to come and share your stories. And don't miss next week, because we're going to have a few more testimonies from the guys that are here. And just to let you know what God is doing around the world, not just in Guatemala. So God bless you, and we are just excited to share this wonderful living testimony. And while they're doing it, I'm going to let Tina just share a little bit more.
Well, we were talking about just the people being so giving, and I did remember there was one time that we had a little lady, and she'd went and picked some, they were like crab apples. And like we'd said, there was, these people didn't have anything. So for them to go and pick from what little that they have was just an amazing thing. And then we had one older lady that she made us homemade tortillas and brought us these wonderful warm tortillas. And it was just so touching because these people have nothing, but they gave everything. And it's just amazing. The people just touched me so much, and just the team. The team was just amazing, just how they gave so unconditionally. It was hot at times, cold at times. Sometimes we didn't feel good. We had a cold shower or bug bites, but everybody just kept giving and going, and it was just an amazing time, and just an amazing team. And I look forward to seeing what the Lord's going to do with next year. You guys want to? Anybody else got something, Henry?
One more quick little highlight. There was a man came through the clinic with his son, and we had a pair of brand new soccer shoes in our bag, and the problem was that one was an Adidas and one was a Nike. They weren't the same brand, but they were the same size. So I asked the man, I said, "Does your son play soccer?" And man, their eyes just lit up, and he says, "Yes. My son loves soccer." And I said, "Would he like to have these shoes?" And he just, man, he was just beaming from ear to ear. And here he's wearing a pair of shoes that they don't match, but they're the same size. So we thank God for the opportunity to give him that particular gift.
Did you want to share it? Oh, we had a lady that came, and she had absolutely no shoes whatsoever. And so we were out of flip-flops totally. So Doug, they have these little tiendas, so he walked over and bought her shoes. And we have pictures of him slipping the shoes on this woman who had absolutely nothing. She was in her 80s. Her husband had died. And so what a blessing that was. So, Sharon, would you like to finish?
Well, I just want to thank you for watching. I think we're just about out of time.